Hello and welcome to a brand new channel dedicated to the world of e-bikes. On this channel we'll be reviewing, testing, modifying and generally playing around with e-bikes of all types. Now, my name's Andy and a few of you will know me from my other channel dedicated to camping and the outdoors, link in the description of course, and through that I've received a couple of bikes to test on camps. This piqued my interest in the subject and that's how we got to this point. I'm in my new studio here today and we'll be looking at my very first e-bike, the Fiido T1. I received the T1 last summer and after a couple of very fun test runs, I think everyone has a ball on their first e-bike ride, I took it on a camping trip along the River Thames. Other than that, it's been used as a run around for visiting friends, popping to the shops, picking up and dropping off parcels and just of course for fun. The T1 has been surpassed by the Pro, which we'll talk about in more detail later and compare them as I have both, but a lot of the footage you'll be seeing is of the original. So to begin, let's get the specs and layout of the bike over with. The T1 is a step over, meaning it has a very low inseam, making mounting and dismounting very easy and great for those with mobility issues as well. The saddle is thickly padded and a very comfortable place to be. It has a height of 80 to 112 centimetres, which is fine for most people. The saddle lifts with a toggle underneath, allowing you to easily remove the rail-mounted battery. And speaking of the battery, let's see the power specs of the bike. A 750 watt brushless rear drive motor with 960 watt hour lithium ion battery, which has a 93 mile 150 kilometer range with pedal assist, speed of 28 miles per hour subject to region, and the battery has a pretty industry standard 800 cycles and takes roughly 8 hours to fully charge, which is fine for overnight or in your workplace during your shift. The T1 is 1.18 meters tall by 1.78 meters long, aluminium frame, which we'll talk more on later as this is where most of the upgrades have been made in the Pro model. It is available in any colour you can imagine, as long as the only colour you can imagine is green. 20 inch by 4 inch wheels, the tyres are basically moped tyres, so easy to replace. I've already had to order one and they were available on Amazon. Has a net weight of 36 kilograms with 200 kilogram max load. That's 120 on the seat and 80 in luggage on the rear rack. More than you'd ever need really, and no, I've not tried it with a passenger, as of yet. Now, I'm in the UK where laws differ from some other countries, but I use the bike off-road a lot and I have a throttle. Speaking of which, let's look at the handlebars. So we have your usual suspects, brakes, which are discs both front and back, and of course auto shut down the motor as well. Shimano gears on the right side, up and down selectors for 7 speeds. On the left we have the horn, which is very loud, and a light switch for dipped and main beams. And of course the display. The simple setup shows your speed, power assisted gear and battery, your range, 2 buttons, one to power on, turn the light on, and your powered gear selector as well. Up front we have the basket. I'd recommend a mesh or bag for the basket due to the large gaps, and a massive and bright mounted light. As a note, the light will not move in the direction turned, but is fully adjustable. The T1 has front fork shock absorbers with standard preload spring adjustment and damper, but no rear suspension. While on the rear you have your tail light neatly mounted underneath the cargo rack there. This powers on and off with the front light. All your cables run through the frame, leaving a nice clean look to the bike as well. The cargo rack has a removable treated wood platform where you can strap a bag, box or parcels, all of that sort of thing too. Easily mount the saddlebags as well, as I did, taking this bike camping. Very versatile, as with a lot on this bike really. Mud flaps front and rear, making this a very practical commuter bike as well. Got to keep that suit clean for the office. You get a lot for your money with the Fedo T1. As well as the basket, mud flaps and lights, you of course get a charger and reflectors. You also get a variety of tools for building and maintaining your bike. These include spanners, wrenches, Allen keys, sockets, and a pretty good user manual as well. Believe me, it's better than most. The bike comes boxed, as most e-bikes do. Lots of foam packaging and protective pads with loose parts cable tied up. Building the bike is easy, 15 minutes or so, of mounting the front wheel, the handlebars, screwing in the labelled pedals and attaching the basket, light and front mud flap. Now let's get back to them caveats I made earlier. The original T1, which was sent to myself and various other YouTubers at the time, had a recall on it due to the frame, which to their credit, Fiido have been very open about and sent out new bikes to all of those affected. You can check your bike with the serial number stamped on the handlebar post over at the Fedo website if you think you may have a recalled product. Though personally I had no issues with the original, but I guess it could be a matter of time and use case. I've had a problem with a bike from another manufacturer that seemed to have dumped and run, so Fiido is really making an effort here, which is a good sign for the future of the company. Now onto the replacement. The T1 Pro has various fixes, and Fiido have even taken the opportunity to add a few upgrades as well. Firstly, the frame now has internal stiffeners, reinforcement and thicker sections as well. You can see the difference here, but at a glance the bike looks the same. On closer inspection you can just see how many changes have been made, in particular to that low step over area. Another part of the frame which was changed is the seat post and rear rack. This is both to accommodate more riders, and a narrower rack allows even more accessories and bags to be attached as well. We now have upgraded Rush hydraulic brakes front and rear. Wheel reflectors have been added for safety, and an improved riding experience with smoother acceleration, less of a jerky takeoff. It's really pleasant to ride now. My experience of the T1 has been overwhelmingly positive, even in its original form. It's a really practical bike. Like I said, I used it on a camping trip, fully loaded up with various bags and accessories mounted. I used the bike well into the winter for visits and odd jobs. It's perfect for those trips a little longer than you'd like to walk, but driving feels like overkill. Most of the time, them distances, the bike will get you there quicker than driving anyway, especially with traffic. On the road, the T1 is a pleasure to ride. Off-road, with just front suspension, the ride is not as smooth as on a mountain bike, but perfectly usable. More aggressive tyre treads would be a good idea if you plan on riding in the mud often. Just see my friend Simon's video as proof of that. The low inseam and pedals made riding large bumps a bit problematic, but this isn't pretending to be a mountain bike and did perform surprisingly well, even if I may have looked a little funny doing it. Here you can see some more footage of me using the bike off-road and having a whale of a time, even if it's not the coolest looking thing on the planet. The push switch throttle is a bit different, but very natural to use, I found. I think I prefer it to the twist throttle. Of course, this is technically illegal in the UK, but for others it's a great convenience. I've used 7 or 8 e-bikes at this point in time, and if I had to choose just one, the T1 would be a very strong contender due to its ease of use and practicality, especially with all the improvements that they've made on the revision. So if you're after a multi-use moped-style cargo bike, I'd definitely recommend considering the T1. Now I hope that's been of some use to you all. It's my first e-bike review and I'm bound to have missed something. Feel free to ask questions in the comments and I will try to find out the answers, then make a list and do a top pinned comment and add the same information to future videos. Now I've got a ton of videos in the pipeline already and should have weekly reviews plus range tests. So if you're interested, please subscribe and like and all that jazz. Thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.